The email from HR was brief. Your role no longer aligns with our strategic vision. No call, no explanation, just a sterile dismissal after 9 years of building Nexara systems from the ground up. I read it twice, then closed my laptop. No anger, no panic, just cold clarity. That was 2 weeks ago. Now, I sat in my dimly lit apartment, scrolling through the non-disclosure agreement I'd signed when Nexara was acquired by Veyron Corp. The wording was airtight, except for one overlooked clause, a loophole just wide enough to slip through. My phone buzzed. Another message from Lena, my former lead developer. They're killing the quantum encryption project, just like you said they would. You still working on that thing you mentioned? I didn't reply. Not yet. The acquisition had been hailed as a merger of equals. Veyron's press release gushed about synergy and shared innovation. Lies. Within days, the gutting began, projects axed, teams disbanded, the tech we'd bled for, dismantled by executives who couldn't tell a neural net from a spreadsheet. I opened the encrypted folder on my desktop. Inside, schematics, prototypes, a blueprint for a company that didn't yet exist. I'd started drafting it months ago, when whispers of the acquisition first surfaced. Not because I feared being cut, but because I knew Veyron would ruin everything we'd built. My coffee had gone cold. I stood, pacing past the whiteboard where I'd mapped out Nexara's core clients, our clients, and the solutions Veyron was too short-sighted to keep. Beneath them, 6 names, the best engineers left at Nexara. All of them had reached out. All of them were ready to jump. I joined Nexara when it was 3 coders in a garage. The founder, Elias, had a revolutionary idea, but no architecture to execute it. I built that architecture, worked 90-hour weeks while my relationships crumbled. Elias promised equity that never materialized. When we hit big, he'd say, then he sold us out. Veyron's integration plan was a joke. They were replacing our adaptive algorithms with decade-old legacy systems. Clumsy, inefficient, deliberate, because innovation was a threat to their bottom line. The final straw? Watching Veyron's COO present their roadmap to the remaining staff. Nexara's infrastructure will be sunset within 12 months, he announced, as if erasing years of work was just another bullet point. I didn't argue, didn't protest. I just noted who in the room looked sickened and who nodded along. That night, I messaged Lena and the others. If you're serious about rebuilding what they're breaking, meet me at the docks tomorrow, midnight. They all showed up. Now, as my former CEO's "Let's Talk" text blinked on my screen, I deleted it unread. Instead, I sent one of my own to the 6 engineers who still gave a damn. Warehouse secured. Burn your bridges. We start Monday. The replies came instantly. No looking back. This one's for you, Elias, I muttered, tapping the server rack. 3 months after founding Axiom Core, we landed our first big client, Bright Industries, a logistics firm that had relied on Nexara's security protocols for years. Their CTO, Mara, had been my biggest advocate back when we built custom encryption for their high-risk shipments. Veyron's team is forcing their one-size-fits-all garbage on us, she'd snapped during our demo. It's like they want us to get hacked. We showed her our rebuilt platform, Nexara's bones, but sharper, faster, untraceable. She signed before we finished the pitch. 2 days later, Veyron's lawyers hit my inbox, cease and desist, breach of IP pending litigation. I'd expected it. My attorney, Renata Voss, skimmed the document and smirked. Their non-compete bans data security work, which could mean anything, and they'd have to prove you stole code, which you didn't. Still, fighting Veyron would bleed us dry. So I walked into their glass and steel HQ and sat across from COO Daniel Reeves. You're smart enough to know this won't end well, he said, steepling his fingers. Axiom's a flea on our back. Sign a consulting deal, generous terms, 2 years, and we'll call off the dogs. Translation: let us gut your company slowly. Pass, I said, standing, but good luck explaining to Bright why your firewalls keep failing. Veyron escalated fast. They strong-armed Bright, threatening to cut off their legacy support if they switched to us. Mara called furious. They're saying Axiom's tech is contested IP. Our board won't risk it. By sundown, our pipeline evaporated. The team gathered in our rented warehouse, the air thick with tension. Then I projected an email onto the wall, sent that morning from Elias Nixara's disgraced founder. Dustin, Veyron's bleeding. Their upgraded servers can't handle half of Nixara's old client load. Failures in Chicago and Dallas last week. They're hiding it, for now. Call me. Lena whistled. So they're too busy suing us to fix their own mess? Worse, I said, grinning. They're vulnerable, and we know exactly where. I pulled up a map of Nixara's former clients. Their clients now, each one a ticking time bomb. Veyron thinks this is a legal fight, but it's not. I circled 3 high-profile names. It's a race, and their systems are already losing. Be ready when their walls start cracking. The meeting with Elias changed everything. We met at an abandoned data hub on the outskirts of the city, somewhere Veyron's surveillance wouldn't reach. At 68, he'd lost none of his sharpness, though his hands trembled slightly as he passed me a decrypted drive. They didn't buy Nixara for the code, Elias said, voice low. They bought it for the Blacklock contract. Blacklock, our crown jewel, a shadowy private equity firm that demanded unhackable systems. Their deal accounted for 40% of Nixara's revenue. Veyron's promising them enhanced integration, Elias continued, pulling up internal slides. But their team just flagged Blacklock's custom protocols as costly redundancies. They're stripping them out. I stared at the documents. Blacklock's security wasn't just bespoke, it was legally mandated. Their entire operation relied on air-gapped, zero-trace architectures. They'll be breached within weeks, I said. Elias smirked. Days. And here's the kicker. The contract you negotiated has a kill switch. If uptime drops below 99.97%, Blacklock can walk. No penalties. A cold realization hit. That's why Veyron was so desperate to bury Axiom. They weren't just afraid we'd compete. They were terrified we'd notice. But something in Elias's posture betrayed deeper stakes. Why risk helping us? I asked. Veyron cut you a golden parachute. His jaw tightened. They did. Then they invoked undisclosed liabilities to claw back 70%. Lena's shares? Voided. Lena, his daughter, Nixara's former COO. She trusted them. Now she's stuck in a transition role scrubbing her own code. There it was. This wasn't just corporate greed. It was a grift. Veyron had lured them with one number, paid another, and locked the rest in legal quicksand. Does Lena know you're here? Elias shook his head. She thinks if she plays along, they'll promote her. They won't. The bitterness in his voice was familial. They're cannibalizing her work right now. Driving back, the pieces snapped together. Veyron's playbook: acquire innovators, hollow them out, then blame the ruins on synergy costs. The engineers, expendable. The clients, oblivious. The founders, paid to disappear. I parked outside Axiom's warehouse and texted Ren, pull the Blacklock schematics, every backup, every override, and find me a way to contact their CISO without Veyron knowing. Her reply was instant. They'll sue us into oblivion if we approach them. I typed slowly, not if we wait until after their systems fail. We had 4 weeks before Blacklock's next audit, 4 weeks until Veyron's house of cards collapsed, and we'd be standing there, ready with a better deck. The team worked in shifts, coding through takeout containers and energy drinks, building a backdoor into Blacklock's systems that even Veyron couldn't detect. Not a hack, a lifeline. We stayed ghosts, never contacting Blacklock directly, but leaving digital breadcrumbs where their paranoid security teams would find them. encrypted forums, burner accounts, a carefully leaked stress test report showing Veyron's vulnerabilities. Meanwhile, Elias played his old industry contacts like a concert pianist. At cybersecurity conferences, he'd murmur about legacy systems crumbling under corporate bloat within earshot of BlackLock's consultants. The whispers reached the right ears. The first domino fell when Veyron pushed their optimized update to BlackLock's Tokyo node. Within hours, 3 algo trading vaults went dark, $17 million in frozen assets. BlackLock's CISO called it expected migration turbulence in press statements. Privately, according to Elias's mole, she threatened to peel Veyron's skin off with a subpoena. Then came the Geneva breach, a 22-minute window where BlackLock's entire European audit trail vanished. Just as regulators began asking questions, Veyron blamed undocumented Nexara legacy code, a transparent attempt to void service guarantees. That's when I sent Elias the nuclear option, a 300-page forensic analysis proving every failure traced to Veyron's cuts, not Nexara's architecture. He delivered it through channels even Veyron couldn't trace. The encrypted message arrived at 3:47 a.m. Burner meet, docks, noon. Ren found me lacing my boots. Could be a trap. I tossed her the car keys. Park where you can see my hands. The woman waiting at Pier 12 wore a BlackLock windbreaker and the tired smirk of someone done playing games. Your report left out one thing, she said, lighting a cigarette. How your Axiom fixes this before the SEC starts crawling up our ass. I slid a thumb drive across the rusted railing. This isn't a sales pitch, it's a vaccine. She pocketed it without looking. Veyron's lawyers will bury you, only if they find us before you do. 2 days later, Veyron's stock tanked 11% on news of remediation delays. That night, an anonymous RFP hit our dark web inbox. BlackLock's contingency protocol activated. The team gathered around a single monitor, the glow highlighting months of exhaustion and vindication. Ren cracked her knuckles. They'll send assassins, not lawyers. I pulled up the schematics. Then we'd better build something worth killing for. Jason eyed the countdown clock. 72 hours until BlackLock's quarterly audit. What if Veyron folds and fixes it themselves? I smiled for the first time in weeks. They can't. We salted their code. The BlackLock board voted at dawn. By 7:03 a.m., my burner phone buzzed with a single word: proceed. Our attorney's message followed. Clean contract, full payment terms, ironclad indemnification against Veyron's inevitable tantrum. The numbers weren't just good, they were vengeance. Enough to fund Axiom for 5 years and salt the earth where Veyron's lawyers would come digging. By noon, financial blogs were screaming about Veyron's 14% stock plunge. Their legal team scrambled, filing for an injunction so sloppy it read like panic. The hearing lasted 9 minutes. The judge didn't even look up from our code comparison exhibit. Plaintiffs' claims of IP theft rely on what exactly? Shared industry terminology? She denied the motion before Veyron's lead counsel could finish sweating through his suit. Daniel Reeves intercepted me outside. We'll appeal. You'll what? I adjusted my tie. Burn more cash chasing a ghost? My code's in your walls now. Every time your systems stutter, clients will think of me. The implementation took 72 sleepless hours. BlackLock's security team watched like hawks, but by day 3, their CISO was bringing us coffee. Christ, she muttered, watching our alerts catch an intrusion attempt Veyron's system had missed for months. We were paying them how much to get hacked? 18 months later, Axiom occupied 3 floors of a converted factory, the glass walls reflecting both the skyline and the irony. Veyron's old regional HQ stood half empty across the street. 4 Fortune 500 firms had followed BlackLock. Veyron quietly shuttered their next-gen security division. Daniel resigned to pursue philanthropy. Elias never took a formal role, but his vintage motorcycle was always parked in our lobby by 8 a.m. The email came on the anniversary of my firing, from Nixara's first engineer, the one who'd trained me. Always knew you'd break their game, just didn't think you'd build a better one. I closed the laptop as Ren kicked open the conference room door, balancing a cake shaped like Veyron's logo, with a knife through it. The team's laughter was louder than any court victory. That night, on my fire escape overlooking the city, I finally understood the math. Veyron's arrogance plus my stubbornness, divided by their stupidity, equals something beautiful. Sometimes the universe doesn't just open a door. It burns down the whole damn building so you're forced to build something fireproof.